So something has begun. What is that? It's actually in regard to phase two when it comes to multi-dex, and even the founder of Dfinity himself, Dominic Williams, made a post about this. Keep in mind, this video isn't even necessarily centered around the price anyways, even though I'll talk about it briefly later, but it's more so about the upcoming decks that Dfinity is planning to launch. And it seems like we're quite close because there's already phase two. We've already seen phase one. Now it's phase two, and I'll talk about that in today's video, but I first want to clarify, this is just my personal perspective. Nothing I say is financial advice, and I am not telling anyone to do anything. So again, as we all know, Dfinity, they're looking to launch a DEX, which is called multi-DEX. Now, naturally, I would assume, because it's in phase two, it's now closer than before to actually fully launching. Have we seen the full-on launch yet? No, we haven't, but at the same time, we're seeing phase one, and then we saw phase two. So, I think this is progress nonetheless. Now, people would like to say, well, Dfinity, they're already focused on AI through Caffeine AI. They're already focused on the cloud market through something called Cloud Engines, which we're still awaiting the full-on launch for, but I'm just saying they're already focused on the cloud market through that. They already say that with all that, why even bother with a DEX? Like, there's so many out there. They like to tell me that. But I don't think there's nothing inherently wrong with that, because this is diversification. Let's just think about this. Will the decks that they make become the best of all time? Some people would say probably not in some cases. Some might think it might be, but we really don't know as of right now. But nonetheless, it doesn't even really need to be the best, in my opinion, just because this is just adding another layer when it comes to Dfinity. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. They're trying multiple pathways. It's like, for instance, take a look at Casio, right? They make electronic musical instruments like pianos and stuff like that, or should I say electronic pianos, and then we take a look at them making calculators. But guess what? They also make the G-Shock. Take a look at this. This is my G-Shock right here. This is the G-Shock Frogman GWF 1001JF. But yeah, besides that point, people would arguably say, well, why would Casio even bother with watches, like in the case of G-Shock? Well, it adds another layer to their company. So there's nothing wrong with that. Dfinity looking to launch multi-DEX is like Casio having G-Shock. I mean, they're just trying multiple different things. I mean, sure, Casio could have just stuck with what they've done in the past, but eventually G-Shock, came into fruition. So that's the thing. So when it comes to Dfinity, there's nothing wrong with this. It's like, for instance, Berkshire Hathaway. They own a lot of Apple stock, but guess what? They also own Brooks, like, the shoes. So again, not every single company out there is just only going to be centered around one thing and one thing only. Sometimes they want to diversify. So when it comes to Dfinity, they're doing nothing different. They're just trying to diversify, and they're seeing, hey, which, pathway could we succeed in? Because as of right now, it's not really proven yet. I mean, is there in a computer such a massive player when it comes to the case of AI? Arguably not, right? Is it such a massive player yet when it comes to the cloud market? Not yet. So again, they're trying different things. So when it comes to this, is the launch of multi-DEX automatically going to compete with like Uni or let's say Pancake or some of the other more massive and well-known DEXs out there? A DEX, by the way, is an exchange that's hypothetically decentralized, but I'm just saying, is it automatically going to become better than those massive players? Not necessarily, but by launching multi-DEX, if it actually does fully launch, it's going to be competing alongside, some of the other more famous DEXs out there. So at least they're trying. Now, people like to say, why is it even called multi-DEX? Like, they think it's not memorable enough. But, I could see the logic there in a sense where multi-DEX is multi-chain. So again, multiple chains, right? So it makes sense why it's called multi-DEX. So I'm assuming the name kind of makes sense, but that's just my assumption. So yeah, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with this. And the fact that Dominic Williams, and by extension Dfinity, is taking multi-DEX so seriously, it shows that this is not just some random passion project that they made and they just did it for hype or attention. That's not the case. It seems like they're treating multi-DEX very seriously. So when people like to tell me that, oh, this is just another one of their things that they're doing to get attention, it doesn't seem like that to me, because keep in mind, if they're doing it just for attention, why would they announce it in 2026? 2026 doesn't even have a good sentiment anyways as of right now when it comes to this space. Bitcoin is at around 60 grand. If this is purely just for attention, they could have done it like in 2024 or even last year. So again, I think they're doing this because they care about diversifying, not really because it's just purely for attention. That's just the way I take a look at it. Now, of course, they're posting about it, because if they don't post about it, how would people really know? But I'm just saying, it doesn't seem like it's purely just off of, trying to get hyper attention. It seems like they're treating it seriously, because if this was just purely for hyper attention, why even do phase 1 and phase 2? Just launch it, right? They could have just easily done that and just made something that they, put together like that with not much effort. They could have done that, but they're not doing that. They're treating it seriously. So I do like seeing that personally. But again, this is just my personal perspective and opinion. Now, if I take a look at it, the internet computer, again, it's just hovering at around $2. So it's kind of stagnating at around $2 basically, which I find quite surprising, just because the all-time low is $1.98. We're basically at that range as of right now, the all-time low range basically, which I don't mind, because it's at all-time low ranges, but I'm seeing all of this go on when it comes to Dfinity. I'm seeing all of this go on when it comes to their computer. All the updates, the intended, improvements and all this, the upcoming launches. I'm seeing all of that, but yet the price charts are so low. So within this space, low prices doesn't automatically mean the project is doing really bad in some cases. And again, when it comes to the internet computer, I just don't see what's wrong with it fundamentally, at least as of right now. It's not like it's becoming worse. If anything, it's becoming better in 2026. Price is going lower, yet fundamentals are increasing. So it's kind of like the opposite. It's like a seesaw, it seems like, as of right now. The fundamentals are becoming really good, yet the price is just going down. But again, this is just how it works sometimes when it comes to this space. During a bear market, during a time when the market isn't doing the best, a project can be doing so good, the price charts just won't really move if the market sentiment were to not change. But here's the thing. There is sometimes this misconception, right, that the internet computer has to become like top 3 or top 5 in order to become a success story. But I don't necessarily agree with that, in a sense where if we consider the internet computer at almost $19 in 2024 and also being at around $9 in November of last year, if I take a look at those ranges right there, we're at any given point in 2024 or 2025, was the internet computer at any given point, again, for those years, more popular than Solana or BNB? I don't think so. It was nowhere near as popular as Ethereum, let alone, right? Or like BNB and all this. So it showcases that the internet computer never really needs to become more massive than them. If it could just go back to those points, keep in mind, from $2 to around $19, that's around a 9 times journey. We take a look at $2 to $9, and we saw $9 basically in November of last year. The journey is around 4.5 times. So again, the internet computer never really needs to become the best of the best. Just returning back to previous points from right now, it seems like it's already quite impressive. The reason why I say that is because of how much the internet computer has gone down, which may seem like a very negative thing, but it doesn't seem necessarily like that to me if I take a look at it a little bit deeper, just because low prices, I don't find it to be a bad thing, in a sense where I don't mind the dip, so to speak, but I'm not telling anyone to do anything. However, again, had the internet computer stabilized at around like $10 or whatever, then okay, going back to like even $19 or whatever is nothing really that impressive. But because it's gone so low, like it's literally at around $2, it's to the point that even just going back to like those previous baselines, which wasn't even like so good for it anyways, is already considered quite impressive considering how much we've gone down. That's the thing. Now, when will things recover? That is a question that I will never be able to have the answer for. There's just no way. Like, how am I going to know when is the exact timing of this or that? No way. So what I instead do is I just hold and I wait. But when I'm seeing what goes on when it comes to Dfinity, like in the case of trying to launch multi-DEX and how it's already in phase 2 and how that has begun, that is what really interests me as of right now. I want to see development. I want to see things go on. It's like, for instance, some of those publicly listed companies out there, maybe in some cases they have a lot of debt, maybe there's not much profit. However, some of these individuals who back these companies, like, those venture capitalists and, people who just believe in the company, sometimes they just want to see what is going on. Like, are they trying to launch things? Are they trying to develop? Are they trying to become better? And if the answer is yes, some of them are willing to stick for it for the long haul. Now, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I kind of view it no different, in a sense where that's just kind of my analogy. I don't mind waiting if something is actually trying to improve and actually has decent fundamentals. So that's why I don't mind waiting. That's the thing. There's not much I can do as of right now, but I'm just waiting. However, again, that recent update that I saw, I was pretty impressed, so I felt like talking about it. However, I'll be sure to make future upcoming videos when it comes to their computer. So I want to say thank you so much for watching.